Hey everyone, Rob Stanley here with 15 Minutes of Growth. And today I got Anthony Cofrancesco from PickFu. Hey Anthony.
Hey Rob, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, so today we're gonna, if you haven't heard of PickFu, I don't know where you've been, first of all. And second of all, today we're gonna talk about, Anthony's got this great presentation he put together for us on talking about like how to basically do some A/B image testing on products for Amazon and some other more information about other things you can use PickFu for. And once again, real quick, everybody who's jumping on, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're on, like if you're on Facebook, and subscribe if you're on our YouTube channel. And Anthony, if you're ready, let's have you go ahead and show everybody your presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, let's jump right into it. So thanks everyone for joining in today. This is going to be a real quick, straight to the point presentation, how to validate with PickFu. What this is going to cover are really the most straightforward and basic applications of PickFu. So I'm going to walk through product design, branding, a little bit of copy, and then also images. Now, there's a ton of applications for PickFu, some more advanced things, but we're not going to go through that in this presentation. It's going to be very high level. And so I want to start off first with kind of what is PickFu. Like Rob said, I feel like everyone has probably heard of PickFu at this point. A lot of people know generally what it is. And so this presentation is to really give you some context and hopefully to start actually using it and getting some good results. So first and foremost, PickFu is instant consumer feedback, or what we call DIY market research. So basically how it works is you have an idea, right? Whether it's an idea for product packaging, a product design, images, and you can take that idea, you can share it with our panel of more than 10,000 people. They're all real people. They're based in the United States. And you can show that idea to our panel and get real feedback. And so what I like to ask sellers a lot of the time is, and I talk to a ton of sellers, I say, where are you currently going to get that feedback? And the vast majority of things that I hear are people saying that they're going with their family, right? They're talking to their partner, their spouse, and they're saying, hey, babe, like, what do you think about my logo? What do you think about my product packaging? Another really common one are people that are just going with their gut, their own kind of self-intuition. And then another real big group that I hear are people going and asking friends or sometimes random strangers. Maybe it's that random person at Starbucks, you're tapping them on the shoulder and you're saying, hey, man, what do you think about my infographics? And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with any of these methods, right? Going with your family, going with yourself, your gut intuition, or going and asking friends or strangers. It's just that these things might not be right. And for a lot of us who are Amazon sellers, a lot of us who are e-commerce sellers, a vast majority of the time, the products that we're selling, we are usually not the target market of the product that we're selling to. In fact, I know a lot of sellers, and there's probably people that can relate out there, that they're selling into a product category, they're selling to a target market that is like diametrically different from who they are as an individual. And so the real question then becomes, how does your team actually go and make really well-informed decisions about the creative concepts that you're putting out? And so when we look at major brands, right, like we're talking about a Nike, we're talking about an Under Armour, they're investing heavily into market research, and they're doing this. They're not doing this because of any other reason that they want to reduce risk. So when the Nike or the Under Armours of the world, when they're launching a product, they're spending anywhere from 45 grand to 75 grand US per product just on market research. And it makes sense as to why. Right? When they're putting in all of that time and effort, not to mention their cost of goods, all of the resources required to launch and sustain a product, they want to make sure that they're not doing things that are fundamentally incorrect, that they haven't missed the mark, and they want to make sure that their products are actually going to be a success. And so this is why I like to really bring this up to sellers, is because many of you have gotten to the point where you're growing and you've grown businesses that are, in many cases, multi-million-dollar brands, right? And they've grown from something where it just started out as you were an entry-level FBA seller to building these huge brands. And think about market research the same way that larger companies think about market research, that you're not going to skimp on other areas of your product in your development process, right? You're not going to skip on your inspections. You're not going to skimp on your logistics. And market research is something you want to think about as well. the good news with PickFu is, again, it's DIY market research. We wanted to make it accessible to everyone. And the good news is you don't need to spend 45 grand to 75 grand to do market research. You can get started with PickFu for as little as $50. And generally what we're seeing is that sellers are doing anywhere from 4 to 7 tests per product. And I'm going to walk through what the most common tests and use cases are today.
Anthony, hold on. We got a quick one for everybody. So first of all, everybody who's on listening, we really appreciate you joining us. Anthony's got a special offer at the end for anybody who is interested in PickFu. So please be sure to stick around, hit that like and subscribe button, and show us some love on this 15 minutes of growth. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to go through a couple quick features about the product before I go into the use cases. First and foremost, what's really interesting about PickFu is that you can pick different targeted audiences. So let's say, I want to select Amazon Prime members that are female, ages 35 plus, that like drinking wine, right? We've got all of these audience segmentation categories that are ready to go. The other really cool advantage of PickFu is if you compare it to a normal split test, right? Even Amazon is opening up their managed experiments now. Those might take 4 weeks or longer to execute. Not to mention, you already have to have an audience that's getting enough traffic, a listing that's getting enough traffic. A PickFu test is usually going to be done in somewhere around 30 minutes to an hour. So it's super fast. And what I really like is that they're not just voting on, do I like option A? Do I like option B? They're actually required to give you detailed feedback as to why. So the other thing that I just like to mention as well, because I'm going to show some examples in just a minute, PickFu is 100% private, right? I know how much everyone is concerned about their products getting out, their designs getting out. And so everyone on our panel is bound by a very strict non-disclosure agreement. So all of the examples I show today, we either have permission to do it or they're run by our internal team. So this is a little bit of what the user interface looks like. Most people are testing 2 to 3 options at a time, but you'll see here on the top right, there's 4 options. You can actually test up to 8 things simultaneously on PickFu. You can do photos, you can do text, you can do video, pretty much anything you want. But this right here is where the real magic of PickFu happens, right? On the left-hand side, you'll see, okay, option B is the winner, but I don't care so much about which image gets more votes. I care much more about the detailed feedback. And so every person that answers the PickFu poll is required to give you a breakdown as to why they chose that. And so again, a normal split test, you might find that, hey, option A wins over option B, but it's not going to tell you the reason why it won. And that's why PickFu can be particularly helpful if you're going through iterative testing of many different versions to get to a final optimized design. So I'm going to walk through right now what are the most common tests. Basically, what we're seeing is, starting off, it doesn't really matter where you are in your launch process. You can use PickFu for initial USP concepting. You can use it for pre-creative direction. So like before you would go and do a lifestyle or a video shoot, getting some ideas of how to actually go and attack that, what people are looking for. And then you can also do a post-creative audit. So let's say you're a seller, you've been selling for a few years, right? And then all of a sudden you start to lose rank. Different competitors are coming into the market. You can actually go and use PickFu to benchmark how your creative assets stack up against the top competitors in a market. I just want to give a quick example here. This is a little of what this pre-creative direction looked like. A few months ago, we worked with Kevin King on a case study around a brand of hand sanitizer that he's launching. We're going to reveal that case study sometime in February. We're really excited about it. But we had different agencies competing. And one of the things that they did that was really interesting is they used PickFu for pre-creative direction. So before they actually did the lifestyle shoot for this image on the right-hand side here, they actually went and tested a bunch of stock images to see, okay, which one is going to be the most relatable to a customer if we're trying to sell this travel hand sanitizer. And you can see, okay, option A is the winner. People like pulling the hand sanitizer from the purse. And then they actually tried to go and recreate the shot, maybe make the shot even better. So that way, before you would go and invest all of these assets on your creative assets for this lifestyle shoot, you could go get some feedback beforehand.
Whoa, wait a minute, Anthony. Go back to that. That is super cool. I didn't even think about that. Like, why, a lot of people would think about doing their own shots or getting their own images together to go test, which you should. Don't get me wrong, but didn't even think about testing some stock images and then just make your own creative photo that matches the one that ended up being successful or, was a big hit. That's wow. See, I just learned something. So that's really cool. All right, cool stuff. Well, keep those questions coming, everybody, and hit that like and subscribe. Go ahead, Anthony.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I'm going to move on now to branding. This is a real straightforward example and something I think a lot of sellers can relate to. Let's say you're launching this line of natural wood furniture, right? And the cool thing about PickFu is that in this case, they're trying to delineate between two options of a logo. And if my creative team were to give me either of these options, I'd say, okay, both look pretty good, but how would you know which one to decide? And the interesting thing is when you read the feedback, the reason option A is the winner, not only is that the font, it looks a little bit more elegant, it looks a little bit more classy, but it was all about the icon. And people really liked, they were able to much more easily understand, okay, what is this icon trying to tell me about natural wood furniture versus the icon on the right? Is this a house? Is this a bed? And so PickFu can help you kind of make these decisions. In terms of product design, this is some really interesting applications here. Let's say you're launching a product, you've done your product research, you've used a research tool, and it's telling you, okay, a breakfast and bed tray, this is hot. This is the top item to be selling. Well, how do you know like which wood grain that you would actually sell it in? Should you go with the dark version or the light version? Same thing with this home sweet home sign on the right-hand side. This is a 2-part of a 4-part test with more options here. But what was interesting is there was different versions of this home sweet home sign, and it was very clear that option B was the winner. And this might seem intuitive when you look after the fact, but how would you actually know how to decide between these two really good options? The feedback was that people wanted to see the American flag inside of the heart. It was a much more simplistic design.
Anthony, go back. We got a question. A question
Sure.
came in. So a question came in, and they're referring to, I think it's the tray on the left there.
Yep.
And I'm kind of trying to look at it. It's kind of small on my screen, but they were saying what happens if it's like a 50-50 or close to basically a tie. What do you kind of do at that point? Should you redo it again, or should you go look at the comments and maybe try it again? What's your thoughts on that? What's the best approach?
Yeah, great question. So if you ever come across a scenario where you're getting 50-50, it could mean a couple of different things. And most likely, if you're getting a 50-50 split, it probably means that both options are quite good. We see this a lot where you're getting to the end of, let's say you were testing many different options and you're kind of working your way down that funnel. When you get to the end and you have two really good options, or there's only minute differences between the two options, it's very likely that you could get 50-50. And so if this test were to come back in 50-50, I think what it would indicate to me is that there's probably a pretty good chance that either is a good option. The other thing that you can do is this was done on a sample size of 50 respondents. You could also increase the sample size. That's what we recommend at the end of your testing, is to say, hey, maybe you try with 100 people, maybe you try with even larger sample size to see if that smaller test actually remains true at the higher levels.
Would you also advise go through and read, obviously, because you mentioned this earlier, go through and read the different responses and maybe make a few little adjustments before you make it bigger size polling, so to speak, to maybe fix those couple of things. So maybe you'll start seeing more of it weigh one way or the other. Is that a good way to approach it?
I think that's a great way to approach it. And then the other thing I might recommend for this specific example is I might go to my manufacturer and I might say, okay, these are the two common colors, like this dark wood grain and the light wood grain. But I might go back to my manufacturer and say, hey, what can we really do to differentiate this? Are there actually some different tones? And give some more options here just to see, because I'm sure there's different kind of finishes. Maybe you have one that's like, it's a dark wood grain, but it's glossy. The other one's matte. And then I try to give more options early on so I can kind of whittle down and see what is it, the specific attributes of the design that people actually like.
Yeah. Stick around again. Anthony's got a special offer for PickFu coming up at the end. Go ahead, Anthony.
All right, sounds good. So another really common thing that I just want to mention is with bonus items. A lot of sellers like to include these variation bonus items. And so the only thing I recommend there is potentially using PickFu to see if the bonus item actually makes the product more valuable. And so, for example, I've actually got one of these webcam covers on right now. You could go and say, hey, is this webcam cover going to help increase the value of this product versus the fitness resistance bands? Like, does it really help the leggings work any better? These are questions that you can ask on PickFu for your bonus items. The other I've seen this mistake many times. Imagine you're trying to sell these eco-friendly plates, right? You've done your product research. It's telling you that this is a hot item. how do you know what quantity to sell these in? And so I've seen sellers actually get this wrong. This is an easy thing to avoid. Also, these could change in time, right? Like imagine pre-COVID, maybe for this eco-friendly party plates, people are buying a 100-pack, but maybe now gatherings are actually getting smaller. And so if you're going into launch in this category, maybe people actually aren't looking to buy a 100-pack of gender reveal kit. Maybe they're actually looking to buy much smaller quantities. So these are things that, again, just in terms of designing your product and your offer. Now, product packaging is probably one of the largest applications and probably the most, in terms of what's going to give you the biggest ROI on PickFu, it's going to be product packaging. And so first and foremost, I like to say is you might have your brand colors, they might be locked in, but even small changes in how the colors are presented really can make a big impact, especially in terms of like click-through rate. And so option A, option B are almost identical. It's just a small change in the color. And you can see how heavily skewed the preference is towards option B. This is a little bit more of an in-depth example here where we've got this immune support supplement. And again, if my creative team were to come to me with these product packaging ideas, I would say, okay, all three look really good. But what's very interesting about the feedback on this, number one, is that people actually didn't prefer the blocky design. They preferred the list format of option A and option B. But the reason that option A was the overall winner is because customers knew that this was an immune support supplement, right? They didn't need to see that it works at the cellular level, that it's for a healthy respiratory system. They wanted to see the ingredients, right? They expected immune support supplement to have zinc, to have vitamin C. And so putting those things front and center at the top of the list were going to be the most impactful if people were deciding, do I want to buy this product or do I want to bounce from this listing? Okay, I think this is the last example here, and this is all about images. You know, when I first started selling on Amazon, you could get away with an image like this. This is for reusable grocery bags. Now, this is the level of competition we're expecting to see. And so PickFu can help you kind of understand, let's say this is a competitor's image. It can help you understand why this is effective. So it's not just the decal on the top left. If you see, it's a really good color spread between the green and the orange and the purple. But more importantly, it's showing the product in use. And so you can see that the bags are different sizes. You can get a feel for what size produce they can handle. And even that the coffee beans on the bottom left-hand side, that bag doesn't have any holes. So seeds or beans aren't going to spill out. We see this time and time again in main image testing, right? If you can show more from your main image in terms of what the product is and what the function is, you're going to have a higher click-through rate. As well as if you can add some additional eye candy or a pop of color onto your main image to kind of bring the eyes over. Amazon's platform is very white. If you can have that saturation, that pop of color, you're going to have a higher likelihood that people are going to click into your listing from the first page of search results. This is a really good example as well. This is an example of that that competitive analysis, right? And so this is what's interesting about this is that both of these infographics are trying to do the exact same thing. They're trying to show, they're trying to help overcome a really common objection with this product. And that's how easy is it to pair these Bluetooth headphones with a phone. And so what's very interesting is that option B here, people prefer this design because it's much more simplistic. It shows the phone. It's got hands for a little bit of size and scale. But what's very interesting about this as well is if you look at the feedback, you could actually go and improve upon this image and take it to the next level, right? Making the copy a little bit more clear. Having, instead of just super easy pair, people are saying you could say two-step pairing, right? Step one, pick up the earbuds. Step two, click connect on your phone menu. And so there's even further optimizations based on the feedback to make this even a more effective image.
Anthony, so real quick, go back to the apple peeler. We're getting a lot of people making comments on that. So Scott was mentioning the apple peeler without the apple looks terrifying. So that's an interesting one. I actually kind of agree with them. It does look a little weird. And then let's see, we had another person asked, apple peeler looks like a cat carrier. It does, right? I mean, it kind of looks weird. By putting the apple there, you really do kind of make it pop and get a better understanding of what it is. So good comments. So we appreciate it. Keep them coming. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point, right? When people are searching on Amazon, they have the intent that they want to buy the product. They've typed in apple slicer, apple peeler into that search results, but it doesn't change the fact that when you look at option B, you're like, what is this? Is this something I would find in my workshop? Nope. Very clearly, I'm going to pick on the seller. That's very clearly, it shows the apple. It's peeling the exterior of the skin. what's gonna have the higher likelihood of getting a better CTR or even a conversion rate. The last example that I like to give here is with this Jade roller. Again, this is a good example of a competitive analysis. I've pulled 3 infographics that are trying to do the exact same thing. They're trying to show the before and after of using this Jade roller. And you can see, okay, option B is very simplistic, but it kind of lacks detail. Options A and C, as you can imagine, the feedback are saying, well, option C just looks super creepy. So if I was trying to sell this product, or maybe I'm an agency and I'm trying to say, okay, how can I increase the conversion rate for my client? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the feedback that's come from this PickFu poll, and I'm going to say, how can we do a combination of the best elements of option A and C, the best elements in terms of simplicity of option B, and create something that even works better than what the top competitors are doing based on the data. And so
let's
that's
also mention, don't sell Jade rollers, please.
Don't,
if you're getting into
sell
Amazon.
Jade rollers. It is way past the peak.
All right, keep going.
But yeah, so yeah, definitely key takeaways. Don't sell Jade rollers, and that's pretty much it, right? So those are generally what we're seeing as some of the 4 to 7 most common tests. We're generally seeing about like 4 to 7 tests per product or per concept. And this is the last little pitch I have, because this is just a cool little case study. Is look, if you're sitting there and you're like, hey, my gut intuition is really good. You know, maybe my wife gives me really good feedback on my logo. I can tell you from talking to a lot of Amazon sellers that your wife doesn't want to hear about your logos anymore. But then more important is like, don't take my word for it. There's this company you've probably heard of called Thrasio. It's an FBA roll-up strategy, one of the fastest profitable company to reach unicorn status in the US, $1 billion valuation. And they use PickFu. They've been using PickFu for years. And we have a really good case study with them where they acquired this brand, Angry Orange, for $2 million. It had this product packaging. They used PickFu to go through a handful of variations, changing things, a whole bunch of things with the product packaging, aside from just the bottle. And just from that, grew that brand from $2 to $20 million. We have a really good testimonial that you can check out on our YouTube channel. And you'll see the VP of Creative and Brand Strategy, John, talking about pretty much for every major creative decision they make, they use PickFu. So again, don't take my word for it. It really does work. I recommend everyone to try it out. And if you're feeling lost, you just want to get an extra set of eyes on your listing, feel free. I'm happy to hop on a call. And this is really my only job here at PickFu, is to help support sellers and help support our clients. So you can hit me up, Anthony@pickfu.com. And yeah, opening it up for if there's any more questions. And there is a code. If you haven't used PickFu before, you can use the code AccrueMe50 and you'll get 50% off of your first pull.
Yeah. So if there's any last questions, I mean, we only have a few more minutes left before we need to get out of here on this live broadcast. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. We really do appreciate you guys, everybody watching. And again, every Tuesday and every Thursdays, Tuesdays, the regular podcast, about a 40-minute podcast. And every Thursdays, we try to do about a 15+ minute demo on different products and services available to all the Amazon sellers. And again, I'm Rob Stanley, Chief Marketing Officer with AccrueMe. So make sure you hit us up at AccrueMe.com. And everybody who's been waiting, why don't you go ahead and hit up AccrueMe, was AccrueMe50, right? Is the coupon code?
Yep.
Yeah, so AccrueMe50. And let's see if we have any last questions coming in. Can you put the code in the chat, please? Yes, I will make sure it's in the chat on everywhere I can, and we'll make sure it's easy. AccrueMe50. If anybody who's actually out there, you want to type it in the chat, you could type it in. AccrueMe50 is the code. So, all right, be sure to check us out, like I said, every Tuesday and every Thursday. And Anthony, thank you so much for being on, and go take a look at PickFu when you get a chance, everybody.
Thanks so much, Rob.